My name is Cole Paris. I'm with Keller Williams Realty, and I'm here with Chris and Cory.
How's it going?
Hey, how's it going? I'm Chris with Legacy Lending Group. We're a mortgage company here in Cheyenne.
My name is Cory Yoakum. I'm a project manager with Monarch Construction and Roofing out of Golden. I myself live in Windsor, though, so just a hop, skip, and a jump away from Cheyenne here.
We're here with Cory today because he's a roofing and exterior finish expert. Trying to get some down low for what Cheyenne needs. We can do to make your house safer and better in the long term.
Yeah. So again, kind of like he said, I am your exterior specialist. At Monarch, we do everything exterior, a lot more than just your roofs, gutters, siding, stucco. Not very many people do stucco anymore, so that's a good one to put in the back pocket there. Painting, pretty much anything you can think of on the exterior of the home, or if it's going to be on an insurance claim, and we take care of it.
So you mentioned that you guys cover the whole exterior.
Yep.
Can you kind of get a little deeper on what all do you guys cover?
The roofing, we do anything that you can possibly think of, whether that be your standard asphalt shingles, metal, if you want to do standing seam metal, tile roofs, and then all of the more premium products like the Da Vinci, which is kind of like a composite plastic shingle, essentially.
Oh, wow.
Which might be great for Cheyenne, especially with, the high wind and you guys get hit with hail quite a bit. And then for the rest of the exterior, same kind of boat, is we're doing everything. So if you're looking to get siding replaced, whether that be you're trying to replace it with vinyl, please don't do vinyl in Cheyenne. But if you're trying to replace it with vinyl, we can do that. What I always recommend is, James Hardy board. The cement fiber board is what I personally think is the best possible thing you can put on your house. The color is baked into it. You don't have to worry about upkeep like you would with a wood siding. You don't have to paint it. And then on top of that, the cement fiber board is just so incredibly durable against wind and hail. But again, if you want to do vinyl, please don't. We can totally do that for you. Wood, anything. And then again, stucco. You guys have quite a bit of stucco up here, actually.
Yeah.
And we're experts at stucco, so we can come in, evaluate what's going on with it. If it's something as simple as a, reskim, which is essentially where we just take the surface coat off and then reskim a new coat back onto it, try to match texture and colors.
Yep.
We can totally do that. But we're going to come in and give you an honest opinion. A lot of these other companies will say, that whole wall needs to be redone. We can't touch it without doing that. I'm only ever going to tell you that if that is the God honest truth of what needs to happen. But we don't have any issue coming in and doing patch jobs for stucco, which a lot of the times is all stucco really needs because it is such a durable material.
Okay.
And then to get away from the walls, we also do other exterior stuff. So paint, again, if you do James Hardy, you don't have to paint. But if you already have wood siding on your house, or if you're getting if you're getting James Hardy that's just base, it's just primed. It's not actually
and that's what I've seen a lot is the base version of it, where it's just kind of that off gray, and then they come in and paint it.
Yep.
Which still gives you a little bit more durability, like you said. And I believe they used to sell it with a higher insulation rating too. The Hardy is an insulation rating thing with it, doesn't it?
It does. So it's Class A fire rated.
Yeah.
So it's going to help with fire resistance,
Yep.
which in this day and age is becoming a bigger concern.
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing, and then it does provide additional insulation as well. So just a really, really good product. Again, you're going to get more. It's going to cost a little more to do the pre-colored.
Yeah.
But I prefer the pre-colored because if you do the painted, you're still going to have to get that repainted, every 10 years minimum to keep everything looking good and to keep everything sealed.
Yeah.
Sounds like the goal is kind of get the stuff that's most durable, so you don't have to come redo a bunch.
That's my biggest thing, man. Is it's like, trust me, you guys get hit with hail enough. I will come and replace your siding and your roof every 5 years if you really want me to. But at the end of the day, I don't think you want me to be coming to your house every 5 years to replace your siding and your roof. No.
Don't get me wrong, you're not that bad, but if you don't want to go that,
Exactly. I'd much rather put a high quality, durable, long lasting material on your roof than even if it does hail, you don't even have to call your insurance. You have to call your car insurance and say, hey, my car looks like Swiss cheese. But you don't have to call your homeowner's insurance. You don't have to pay that deductible. You have a material on your house that's going to last as long as it's supposed to.
So, in your opinion, what is the best kind of finishes for exteriors for our climate? We don't have a lot of heat. We have a little in the summer. We have wind constantly.
Yep, yeah, wind, and especially after what you guys went through last year, I would definitely add hail to that as well.
Yeah, quarter-sized hails. Everybody was out knocking on doors.
You know, I actually had some people last year that saved some of those chunks of hail that were like, I like to say they were whiskey ball sized, but a better reference point would probably be baseball. So
They were massive. Everybody was.
Yep. So again, you know, taking that into consideration, that and wind in Cheyenne, you know, if you're not trying to spend a ton of money, you're just looking for what's going to last, but also what is not going to break the bank. You know, obviously your asphalt shingle is always going to be a great go-to, but you want to make sure that you're using the correct asphalt shingle. So we work with, you know, a lot of different manufacturers. There is similarities, and a lot of the shingles are made very much the same. But we prefer to use GAF when we're up here, GAF. The reason it's a brand, yep. You know, and obviously we're going to recommend that you do a level 4 impact resistant. You know, it's not required in Cheyenne to have a level 4 impact resistant, although it probably should be. But it's not required by code here, but we do recommend to do that because you don't have to call me whenever you get hit with hail now. You just deal with it because there's no damage to your roof, right? So that's the biggest thing. So we like to use GAF up here. The big reason we like to use GAF up here is because they have a patented sealant. So essentially with your shingles, you have on the bottom inside of all the shingles, there's an adhesive, and that's what sticks itself to the shingle that's underneath it, right? So you lay from the bottom up when you're installing the shingles, and when they lay down, that adhesive strip is what essentially keeps that shingle from flipping up and blowing off of your roof. And the reason we like to use GAF is because they have a patented adhesive that they use that, in our opinion, is probably the best for high wind. And then also just proper application. You know, you have to hand seal edges in Cheyenne. A lot of companies don't do that because it, you know, again, it's more work. And a lot of the times it's baked into what your labor price is, but people still just prefer to do that. Again, unfortunately in this industry, a lot of people cut corners.
Yeah, every industry is a little bit that way, right? There's good and bad in everybody, and it's finding the contractor that's there to stand behind what they're putting in.
Exactly. You know, so those are the two big things with the roof is, you know, if you're trying to stay within a budget, but you also want to get something good, a level 4 impact resistant GAF shingle is what I'm going to recommend. Like I said, I will always recommend Hardy, but something that is a little more affordable than Hardy is going with, you know, LP, which is more of a manufactured wood. It's going to be your, you know, really quality product that's going to last a long time, but also is going to be a little bit more budget friendly. That's probably what I would recommend for the walls if you're looking at, you know, something for your specific climate.
So really, I guess my biggest question for like tying in you guys and insurance, what's kind of the best way? The hailstorm hits Cheyenne tomorrow. I'm a homeowner. It's my first time. I just moved here. What's my best thing to do first? What do I do first to deal with insurance, to get you guys? How do I get a trusted contractor in place there?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the end of the day, if you get hit with hail, a lot of the times, you know, people will go with the first company that knocks on their door because they're just like, I don't want to deal with this.
Yep.
You know, this is easy. This person's going to deal with this for me. It's really all it takes is just doing a little bit of research. A lot of the times, if it's a shady company, they're going to promise you the entire world. And then as soon as they get that first check from you, radio silence, you know, and sometimes they'll go as far as to not do any of the work and completely commit fraud. But other times they just, you know, kind off, right? They just stop caring about you because they got the signed contract, they got that first check.
They'll get to it when they get to
They'll get to it when they get to it. So at the end of the day, you just want to make sure that whoever you're using, you trust. I would obviously recommend call me, but
I'm expecting that to start.
right. But again, at the end of the day, I want people to just get taken care of correctly. Like obviously, the more roofs I sign, the better for me. I just don't want to see people get fines.
Yeah.
And then, something that was promised to that homeowner, like, oh, yeah, we'll go ahead and take that satellite off your roof for free for you. Now all of a sudden, you go out, you have a brand new roof on, and you got 4 big old puncture holes because they put that satellite back in place.
Yep.
So stuff like that, and like being a project manager ensures that I'm the person who's selling stuff to you. I'm the one who's working with your insurance, so I know that project better than anybody. So I'm going to be the one who makes sure that everything goes smooth and that anything that's promised to you is delivered on, and that there's no mishaps or miscommunications with the scope of work. And again, when we're tying that back into insurance, it just makes the whole process so much smoother, because now instead of insurance getting multiple supplements from multiple different contractors and having to issue every time a supplement gets approved, your insurance is going to send you another check to make up for that difference.
Yep.
Right. So if you're working with 4 different contractors through this insurance process, you're going to get that initial ACV check that they send you. You're going to get a supplement check for the roofer. You're going to get a supplement ACV check for the siding guy. You're going to get a supplement check for the windows, and then you're going to get another supplement check for whatever additional scopes that might be on there. And then you're going to get a final check after all of this work is completed, and that's if it's all completed at the same time.
Yep.
And if you're tied into a mortgage company, you're going to have to send every single one of those checks to your mortgage company to get endorsed first and then sent back to you before you can pay your contractor. I'm stressing you out over there, and you're not even having to go through it.
No, I'm like,
Listening to the checks, yeah.
As a real estate agent, I like manage some of this stuff, for repairs during contracts. And I'm gonna have to keep track of all of that, keep copies and keep a log and like.
Yep. So again, when you're working with us, we're gonna send in all of the supplements all at once. We're going to send in the supplement for the roof, the windows, the siding, the paint, whatever else there might be.
Yeah.
We're sending all of that in all at once. So you're only, through this entire process, going to get 3 checks rather than like 10 to like 20. Right? And it just makes the process easier on the homeowner. It makes the process way smoother with the insurance, especially, so insurance also appreciates whenever we're on a job, because we're sending everything all at once, and it's way easier for them to review it that way.
And speaking of insurance and your guys's, you have a big name. Monarch's been around for a long time. I remember when I was buying my first house, it was, hey, you're looking for houses that have the Monarch 30-year roof on it. That has the Monarch 30-year roof. I was like, I don't know what that means, but everybody keeps saying it sounds good. So, that's great. Do you guys have products that help with insurance costs, or is there a balance there where you guys are working with the insurance companies trying to get some of these new products that keep you from having to replace it every year and keeps the insurance from having to repair it every year?
Yep, absolutely. Putting a impact resistant roof on is gonna, with most insurance companies, is gonna get you upwards of a 30% discount on your overall policy. And I know that seems like a lot, because obviously your insurance is covering your entire house, and the cost to replace your roof is way less than 30% of replacing your entire house. But your roof is what is protecting everything on the inside.
Yep.
So that's why they offer such a big discount on that, is because if you have one of those impact resistant roofs, the likelihood of you having interior water damage, leaking, or any of those other things is minimized greatly by having that impact resistant roof up there. So that is one thing that we do. And then another thing that can also help with insurance premiums is we are, only 1% of contractors in Colorado are Cat Platinum with Owens Corning, and then only 2% of contractors nationwide are Master Elite with GAF. Because we are Master Elite with GAF and Platinum with Owens Corning, we can offer top of the line, industry leading warranties.
Okay.
Those warranties do cost a little extra when we install the roof, right? You are paying a little bit extra, but I believe the GAF warranty, if you go with like the top one, that's a 50-year lifetime warranty shingle and a 20-year workmanship warranty. So that's everything. That's if in 20 years, 160 mile an hour winds come ripping through here, you know, and you are gonna know that you don't even have to call your insurance. If you go outside and you have a bunch of shingles torn off your roof, you don't even have to call your insurance. You're not gonna have to pay a deductible to get this roof taken care of. You're covered under warranty. Yep. And that warranty, GAF pays us out for the labor. So we, as the contractor, are still getting, you know, the labor cost that we need to operate as a company.
Yep. To get it done.
Exactly, to get it done. And GAF covers all the material replacement. So that is a huge thing that, again, only 2% of contractors in the entire country are Master Elite with GAF.
So is that warranty transferable with the house?
It is, yep. So that warranty is transferable within the first 20 years, one time. One time within the first 20 years. Yep.
Okay, that's not bad at all, though. I mean, warranty's not normally transferable.
No.
Any other appliance, any other fixture in your house, is?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So, what do you find are the most common failure points for roofs and exteriors?
Especially here in Cheyenne, you know, typically I would just go straight to water, but being in Cheyenne, we got to talk about wind. That is ultimately going to always be your guys' number one worst enemy in this, you know, area, is the wind. And at the end of the day, the number one failure point on roofs is going to be your edges. So all of the edges running along the gable, that's where your peaks are. And then all of the edges running along your end walls or your eaves. And your eaves is typically where you're going to have your gutters. You know, and just from all it takes is one shingle on the edge there to get lifted. And then now the wind gets under that one shingle and it just starts pulling it up from the bottom. Because like I mentioned earlier, your roof is installed from the bottom up, weathered over each other, right? So if you get under that bottom layer, and you're just lifting, you're underneath the entire roof. Exactly. So again, that's where, you know, like I was saying, the proper installation techniques is huge in Cheyenne, because if they're not hand sealing those edges, you're gonna eventually have an issue with it. We use a specific starter shingle for high wind areas, and then hand seal is where you're putting a specific adhesive in there. So we're not just relying on the adhesive that comes standard on a shingle. We're adding in additional adhesive to make sure that those shingles are never going to get lifted.
Okay, so gluing down the edges better.
Exactly.
Gluing down the gables better.
Exactly. Yep. And then some more about water. Typically where you're going to see water damage the most, so the places that are going to fail are going to be valleys. You know, essentially anywhere that you're going to have a high input of water. So valleys, because you have multiple roof facets that are leading to a single valley, right? So you're going to have all of the water from two entire facets coming to one corner point, and that water is going to run down that corner point. Another place that I see, you know, water damage a lot, your gutters. So a lot of the times I'll see gutters that aren't cleaned out properly. I always recommend gutter guards if you have trees on your property. But having a gutter that's not cleaned out properly, especially in a place where it gets cold in the winter like Cheyenne, what happens is you're going to have water, or snow and ice, it's going to melt when it's on your roof because you have the heat from your attic that's melting that, right? But then the second it hits your gutter, there's no more heat. So what happens is that ice buildup, especially if your gutters aren't cleaned out correctly, it's going to freeze over and then it digs itself in under that shingle. And then for the walls specifically, If your gutters are not cleaned out, you're going to get water that's going to run over the backside of them, and that's going to get into your soffit, and then that's going to work its way down your wall. So your soffit, your wall comes up, right? And then your soffit is that area. It's the overhang. It's the overhang. Yep. So it's the overhang is what the soffit
Right
is.
under the
Exactly, right under the eaves. Yep. But that's typically where you're going to see wall damage coming from the most, either there or along the bottom of the wall. So typically bottom of the walls or top of the walls where gutters might be overfilling and kind of filling stuff up with water.
sounds like we're just have to follow.
That's pretty much it. Yep. Exactly. If you can picture yourself pouring 20 gallons of water and imagine where that water is going to go. And that is typically where you're going to find your problem.
All right. So when someone's going to sell their house, what's kind of some stuff you guys can offer to help them out, or some products you can offer to help them create some value in their homes?
So we offer free inspections. And again, because we are a full exterior company, I'm going to inspect everything on the full exterior of the home. I do that standard, even if I'm just getting called out to look at a roof. I'm still going to look at everything, and that's because a lot of the times things are missed, and I always just try to make sure that I'm giving people the most accurate and comprehensive inspection that I can, and we do those inspections completely free. If I don't find any damage with the roof, if it looks like it's still in good shape, it looks like it was installed correctly, then we're going to go ahead and give you guys a free certification that's good for 5 years. We give a 5-year roof certification that you can submit to insurance, you can submit to the potential buyer of the home. Absolutely. And that right there in itself is completely free, and that's going to prevent them trying to get concessions out of you for replacing a roof that doesn't need to be replaced.
Absolutely. How long does it take you guys to do that?
I typically will get things on my schedule. If somebody gives me a call, I'll usually have them on my schedule no later than within a week. And it only takes me about an hour to do that inspection. And I will get them that certification before I leave their house.
Okay.
Yeah, I know I work with buyers most of the time, and we always put a clause in our contracts to get inspection by a certified buyer.
Exactly, yep.
So you can't really expect to sell a house unless you trust it.
Exactly, yep. And I don't want you to have to buy anything. My hope is that I come do your inspection and that everything looks perfect, and I will always be 100% honest about that. And I believe that you can yourself, touch on that point.
You know, work at the previous company where you came, knocked on my door, said, hey, all these people are like knocking on your door after that huge hailstorm where we had those baseball-sized pieces of hail. Like, your roof looks fine. I was gonna, offer an inspection, do this or that. I can see from right here, it's okay. One, my shed, they need help, but
Yep.
you told me that, but you're like, you're not gonna try and sell me something I don't need.
I'm not. At the end of the day, I just like to be honest with people, and you were probably the only person in that entire neighborhood that had a level 4 impact resistant roof. I was honest with you about that and told you that, and you said you had 5, 6 people come after me that were like, oh yeah, you have a ton of damage, you need to call your insurance, this whole roof needs to be replaced.
Exactly. They're like, it'll be an insurance write-off, don't worry about it, but let us replace your roof. Like, no, Cory came here first thing in the morning, he said my roof's fine. They're full of it. And that's why you're here. That's why we reached out to you, wanted you to come on, tell people about how they could actually improve their roofs long term versus replacing something. So we know, you told me when we had coffee a couple of weeks ago, you're the only roofing company officially partnered.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's trust, right? We are partnered with the biggest and most well-known name in Colorado and, dare I say, Wyoming as well. You guys don't have your own football team here, and I
kind of default to the Broncos.
Exactly.
It's the best team in the NFL. I don't know why you wouldn't default to the Denver Broncos.
See, this man knows what he's talking about.
Once Peyton Manning left, though, it was like Are they really the best anymore?
They've always been the best. They'll always be the best.
He's answering all these questions.
saying,
I'm not supported by the Denver Broncos yet, but
Do you want to that over there?
But yeah, I mean, you know, the biggest thing is trust, right? You know, if the Denver Broncos trust us to put their logo and their name on our shirts, our hats, our trucks, then you can trust us. You know, at the end of the day, if we do something shady, which we would never do, but if that happened, not only are you calling my HR and my management and my ownership to complain about, you know, not delivering on a promise or, you know, doing something shady or something along those lines, you're not just calling all the people from my company. You can call the marketing team from the Denver Broncos and put, you know, a sponsorship potentially in jeopardy. And, you know, again, you're not ever going to have to do that, but just the comfort of mind knowing that you have that extra security blanket.
So essentially, it's just kind of a higher level of accountability for your work.
Exactly. Yep. Trust and accountability. Sweet. Well, guys, I really appreciate you bringing me in today. It was a pleasure to speak to both of you. And it was a pleasure to speak to all of you lovely people as well. Remember that if you have any exterior needs, whether that be something as a simple inspection, make sure you give me a call. I live in Windsor myself, so I'm just a hop, skip, and jump away from you. And I will happily get you on my schedule to come take a look at whatever it is you need me to do. My phone number is 970-371-7632. And, you know, happy to come out and represent Monarch, and would love to come and help any of your lovely faces.
My name is Cole Paris with Keller Williams Realty here in Cheyenne. Buying and selling a house, hit me up and we'll see what we can do. Maybe we can get Cory on board.
And when you're ready to get pre-approved for that house, come see Chris Edwards at Legacy Lending Group, and we'll get you pre-approved, ready to make an offer and hit everything.
All right.
Thanks, guys.